Alright, time for another DraftPhysics.com video presentation. Probably already lost a percentage of my audience. Yeah, I haven't even started the video yet. They already clicked away. Hilarious. Anyway, I was looking at, where the hell did it go? That's kind of funny. It's not entirely funny. Oh, there it is. Yeah, YouTube demographics. So, just looking at some of this statistical crap, and it's just all bad news, of course. But it's just funny. I find some of it curious. Okay, so this is percentage by country. So yes, of course, the United States would dominate. The other countries don't even show up. That's kind of funny. Let's just see. United Kingdom. So they only show up for the YouTube video for fewer days. Yeah, I don't know, these are weird peaks. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I wish they would just let you see the one thing without ruining everything else. I mean, just highlight the one color. But anyway, well, the back button didn't work. Interesting. Alright. So how do I fix it? Why does everything have to be a little more complicated than it should be? I don't know. Try clicking twice. Okay, well that gets me back to age. So that was the other thing that was kind of curious. So anyway, the country demographics. Well, I really should go back to that, right? I should be able to just do this. Geography. Okay. Hey, now it's showing up. Yeah, that's better. All right. Yeah, just can't click on anything. Don't touch anything. All right. So it's only 35% is the United States, but clearly it dominates, and clearly, 35%? Well, where is the rest of the percentage? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But the one I found the most enlightening to, how the internet works is India. First I said, India, fourth place. Well, there's lots of people interested in physics in India. But they're all accidental clicks. The video must be in a list of videos, and somehow they make a mistake, because the view time is 16 seconds. Just indicating that, yes, it's in English. Okay, forget it. They're not going to listen. My icons are kind of obvious that all of the videos are in English. Maybe they're not. There's no captioning. YouTube doesn't caption the video in the Indian language, because it's not a popular enough video or something. I don't know. There's got to be some explanation, because that is, it's surprisingly tiny. It's like every single click was just a waste. But I think Australia has the same thing. No, Austria. Very low. Austrians are not interested. They click and go. So anyway, but it is funny that you're probably losing whatever, a percentage of your audience for every few seconds into your video. Some percentage of that audience that just isn't going to hang around. And for whatever reasons, who the hell knows? So it is curious. So if there's somebody still listening who hasn't been here before or something, I do make a lot of physics videos. I mean, where I'm actually talking about physics and not demographics. But it's too late to even say that, right? Because they've gotten their impression and they've already, fuck you. You're just talking shit. Not interested. I can understand that. But anyway, it is a tough place to do business. So the age thing was also interesting. Because the numbers don't add up, really. But, I mean, no one. I mean, 0% under 25. I said, well, that's pretty dismal. Because that means that, you can't get to any of them before they've already gotten educated, the wrong way. So that was sort of disappointing. And the fact that you would think there would be more older people on the internet. I mean, it's a big number, 45 to 54, but shit, I'm not even, I'm already older than that category, and there's nobody, my age or older. Surprising, frankly. And disappointing, and all that crap. So, Yeah, so I did, there's not much to say. I mean, even the gender thing, on my other channel, I haven't checked lately, but there was at least 5% female. Now it's just 100% male. And the subject is physics, okay, I get it, but that's 100%. We're supposed to have done the feminism thing. We're supposed to have, and women go to college more, and all of that, and it just seems like there would be a little more interest, especially just because of the whole conformity thing. You think women would be even more likely to be dissidents, and they're not. When you think of the women in science, they're really usually, well, there is Sabine Hassenfelder. I mean, she's only a dissident on certain subjects. She buys into most of the bullshit. But she does do dissidency in the sense that she does challenge pieces of the crap. But there's no. She certainly doesn't discourage. She certainly doesn't encourage any challenges. She's not creating any mechanism to facilitate making challenges. And she certainly doesn't accept any from, obscurity. So anyway, I mean, I can't pay her, to defend even the Eddington experiment, for example. Get anyone to defend any of it in a conversation, because in a conversation they have to account for things that just can't be accounted for, frankly. I mean, 100 years since the Eddington experiment, and there's been no real hard effort by science, to validate any of it. And it's, kind of a fundamental and very important part of physics is recognizing whether or not light is actually a force, or whether, it's somehow something else. It somehow could be affected by gravity. I mean, the simple argument is if it's electromagnetic and it's affected by gravity, then it has to be material. And if it's material, then it has to be affected by electricity and magnetism. And it's not. If you can bend it with one, you really have to be able to bend it with the other. But anyway, I mean, it's only logical. But let's not do logic, because that bugs people. I guess I could just go to this link to my channel. I did fix the old icons, so now they're kind of blurry and crappy. I turned them into thumbnails. So the page should load a little quicker. Blah, 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 but who cares, right? It's just a little minor detail. And so I did do some videos this week. Tedious. So anyway, I guess I'll say something about this background again. I did mention it in the last video. But this was the previous state of one of the simulations. There's a better word for that. What am I looking for? Shit. Anyway, I'll think of it later. Yeah, I'll mail you, what I meant to say. It's not, it's not a simulation. It's a, well, anyway, it's what happens when you put the rules in place and draw a picture of it. That's a moving picture. Of what happens with the simple rule. So the simple rule is just this inverse relationship between two kinds of force and two kinds of matter. So it's just basically this is charge. This is watching electrons and protons and what they would do pretty much under just Maxwell's rules. Okay, it's pretty much that simple. This is just Maxwell put in motion, in the sense that the electrons spew a force that attracts protons, and the protons spew a force that attracts electrons, and they repel each other. And so it's, just made more colorful, and just makes it kind of obvious. So sort of, like I said, that some of this is so I mean, this little simulation could have been done by, there's a difference between animation and a simulation and a, so simulation is what it really is. But anyway, all right, well anyway, so where was I? Yeah, Maxwell. So it's pretty much, just as if, but the energy for the objects isn't coming from inside of them. It's coming from the external environment. So that's the key factor that the conventional model is missing. They think the charge is coming from the electron or from the proton, when it's just reflecting what's already in the environment. And the simple little trick is that the electrons turn proton force into electron force, and the protons turn electron force into proton force, and the electrons turn the protons turn electron force into proton force. So that simple little change, and then you just have all the energy come from the outside, and that sort of explains gravity also. So it connects the two. I mean, it really connects gravity and charge in the sense that it's kind of obvious that it's just gravity with the charge effect applied. So you've just taken gravity and converted it into a charge effect. Well, you've taken the force that creates gravity, the field that allows gravity to happen. So let's talk about it in fields. You've taken the gravity field, and through charge, you've manipulated the gravity field a little bit and created these effects. And then the manipulation is basically the same manipulation that you call magnetism. It's creating the polarity, because you stick two of those things together and one side spews a lot of orange and the other side spews a lot of blue. So you, in some sense, have created a magnet. Now, magnets are bigger than single atoms in terms of the ones we manipulate. So the ones we manipulate aren't doing it as perfectly as that. They wouldn't be all red at one end and all blue at the other end, or then they would attract electrons and attract protons. And they don't, because they're not perfect. And so that can also be, that something needs to be drawn first, I suppose. It'll eventually be in the simulation. I'm just saying this is where it was a year and a half ago. And then, unfortunately, people have to live real lives and all that kind of stuff. And so both the people who were working on it, their life sucks, and so they couldn't continue working on it. So there's some hope that in a couple of months there'll be some time to devote some more attention, and we'll see. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on anybody. It's very nice that people are willing to do this shit. I like to do it, but just the programming I know isn't good enough, and I just don't have the time, to invest in learning how to do it. So, you can't, you can't do everything. It's not possible. Now, whether I could pay to have it done is another issue. So, but who wants to pay for anything? Anyway, I mean, it's, I'm just not in a position to afford that. Views I'll pay for, because I need the interactions. I need the challenge of reasonable debates. It's part of the process of perfecting, an argument is testing it. And you need good testers. And unfortunately, those can't find any of those. The only kind of testers you can find are ragged, pretty much disgusting characters, who can't make an argument on the subject, unfortunately. So, so now we'll go back to just talking about the videos I didn't make on YouTube, this week. And just, as stated, there's just no audience, and that's the tricky part. How do we all the dissidents are stuck in this position. All the new channels are stuck in this position. You can see channels that, get 8 views a video or something. And that frankly just wouldn't have happened in the past on YouTube, because the videos that would come into the feed would be sort of more random, and like today's videos, you could see just the videos made today or some other kind of thing would come up, and so you could see new channels, and you got exposed to the connected channels, the ones that making replies to other ones were in the stream a little bit more obviously. And none of that exists on YouTube. There's no categories, substantially no categorization. Even on the searching is just terrible on on general subjects, because subjects like physics, I find it very frustrating to find videos on YouTube, because and I'm nothing against India, but yeah, I mean, 50% of the videos are in Hindi, and I don't speak the language, so what good is the video? They're just of no value. So it really is it's just irritating, and makes it more difficult to do my job, because again, the feedback's really important. I mean, they had all of that, in the past at least, scientists were connected to each other through letter writing, which must have been very tedious, but it did provide some network. And they had institutions and different things, different ways of communicating to each other, and communing in some respects. And I guess in some ways they all gravitated to one city or one place, because that's where all the other scientists were. So there was some mechanisms to force them to have contact with each other that at least facilitated it. Where now it's, it should be even easier, but it's in fact more difficult. And especially again for anything outside of the club or the group, the popular people control the internet essentially in terms of what gets exposure now, and they're not likely to provide much exposure to arguments that aren't going to flatter them or do them any good, that are going to cause them the grief of having their ideas tested. So that puts it into like this the Simon Dan kind of category. So I am thinking of making a video where I actually make one of those stupid fake icons, and do his flat Earth debunking style on him, because it's just so tacky that there's so many of these debunkers, and they're picking the lowest, dirtiest, most rotten fruit possible. I mean, they're so weak in terms of, this is just picking on retards. They're not even, they're not even trying. To have a fight that could mean something. This is like watching, heavyweights, the sumo wrestling with midgets. This is watching 500-pound people fall on, 50-pound people. This isn't anything like a good fight. But anyway, and it's just pathetic that they have a huge audience for. There's people just, look, we defeated the flat earthers, where these people aren't even close to doing anything scientific or honest. So yeah, that connects me to another weird little video I saw. Maybe I'll play the beginning of that. So the D. Hilster guy has that club, whatever it is, the Chappelle Nutball Society. Anyway, well, apparently they're all crazy. And I just had, apparently it was some sort of science group, and I think they had a fight because there was too many creationists in their science group, so there was too many religious nuts. So they had to split up, and D. Hilster ended up creating, like, pretending the religious nuts aren't religious nuts. And so they left basically over some disagreement about the integrity of what science should be, I think. And so there were very few real scientists in the group, so that part of the group died. And the part that survived is the part that still has all the nutty creationists in it. Something like that. That's what it looks like to me, anyway. Something like that. Well, anyway. So as part of, I would imagine their glory of God kind of bullshit or something, they're apparently they're climate change deniers also. It's just, and you just, the Hillster is such a, a classic liberal kind of thing. I mean, he's 20 years ago I would have said I was a classic liberal in some sense, but I was never really a liberal. I was always just an anti-fascist, religious kook, greedy horror scum thing. I hated the rich because I thought it was just obscene. I mean, the money they waste, every day for shit on fresh flowers or some other kind of bullshit. Just bullshit. And that's all labor. Yachts are a waste of labor. Human beings shouldn't be wasting their time building $1 million yachts that only 6 people ever enjoy for 4 days out of the year. That's retarded. Okay, human beings should be building structure and infrastructure. They should be building internet and solar panels and all that kind of crap. Not that I'm for solar in the sense of putting solar panels on roofs is retarded. They should be building solar farms. They should be doing things that are both environmentally sound and socially productive. But instead, it's all for-profit corporate crap. For obscene profit, let's say. I mean, I'm not against, that's where I'm not a socialist. I'm not against people making a living. I'm not against paying people who have to invest in their skills, getting more money. I'm just against the obscenities that exist in our civilizations. But anyway, so he's, and you would think, I'm pretty certain that he's pretty convinced that there is such a thing as global warming. It's just kind of funny that these people, part of his organization, are kind of just so stupid. I mean, it's just so fucking stupid to pretend, that we haven't changed the environment. And that we haven't done it in a way that's just exactly the opposite of what the Earth has been doing for 400 million years at least. 500, 600, which is storing carbon in the ground. I mean, for 500 million years, that's what the environment was doing, the dinosaurs, and more importantly, the plant life, once it got on Earth, completely changed the game. There was a water world in the sense that even the atmosphere was a water world. The humidity was really high. The CO2 levels were high, and that meant it was a little bit warmer, and that meant that little bit of warmer meant you put more water in the atmosphere, and the water is the real greenhouse gas. And so the more water you can put into the atmosphere, the hotter it's going to get, and the hotter it's going to get, the more water you can put in the atmosphere. So, and it's just, everything points to that it was much wetter, millions of years ago. The Grand Canyon was made by the water leaking, off of the North American continent. I mean, it's just so obvious. And it's just so obvious that all of the living stuff on Earth wasn't a perfect ecosystem, in the sense that the carbon cycle wasn't a circular carbon cycle. The carbon went into the atmosphere and then into the Earth. So it was getting drained out of the active environment and stored in the ground in the form of methane and all the dead shit, all the carbon that turned to coal and oil. Now, obviously, we have taken at least half the oil, you could say, I mean, obviously it's not half the good oil. We've taken half the high yield oil out of the ground. Half of it. Okay, and it was a lot of it. We've taken half of it out of the ground, out of storage, and put it back into the active environment. And quite obviously, and like I said, even though it's a minor greenhouse gas, CO2, it's a greenhouse gas. And all you need is that little increase in that to make a big increase in the water vapor. And, but, you know, and that's what we've done. And it's going to get wetter and hotter because we did that. And we're just going back in time. So in a sense, the dinosaurs were doomed to an ice age, eventually anyway. I mean, the world was much warmer, 7 degrees Celsius or whatever, when the dinosaurs were stomping about. And that 7 degrees is huge when you think of how much water that means the atmosphere could hold. That much warmer air was holding a lot more humidity. And that was the greenhouse gas. And so it was hot and wet. And that's why that's why you could have giant dragonflies, because they weren't really flying through thin air. They were flying through really thick air. You know, parachutes don't work, you know, high in the atmosphere. They only work low in the atmosphere because they have to catch something. And, you know, part of what they're catching is the humidity. The water molecules are helping. But anyway, but it's just such a stupid frickin' argument. So, like I said, maybe I'll play that. Just because it was just such a funny way to start a video on a completely different subject. So they're going to talk about relativity, but yeah, you know, like true imbeciles, they fuck it up by saying something really stupid to start the video. You know, like all praise President Trump or something. I mean, doing something politically really quite decisive and, you know, right, left, right, wrong, even. I mean, it's just a way of offending your audience. Now maybe I've offended some part of my audience now, but I don't, you know, frankly, you know, I can't imagine how a sensible person could find any reason to say, I am certain we haven't, you know, the human race hasn't affected the environment in the last 120 years with its technical revolution, its industrial revolution. All that shit we've pumped into the atmosphere doesn't matter. Somebody that stupid, you know, you just gotta say, fuck that. You know, they're not worth the trouble. Alright, anyway. So I should pause. Find the video. Oh, I guess I should I did make some videos this week. So yesterday's video was diluted science, so I just went over a couple of the subjects. Then it was overview. So yeah, I did an overview where I went over a few of the subjects. Yeah, I don't remember which ones. Just the whole idea that this is about force and matter and blah 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 blah. And then I did a video on refraction and the right-hand rule, just talking about some of the stuff I've been thinking about, and the puzzles that still remain, the pieces of the puzzle that still are too misshapen to fit anywhere. And then comment on gravity. And so, yeah, it was just an argument about size and shape and how that affects gravity. And then it was useless comments about crap, and then some other draft thing I did, I don't remember. Some Mach principle stuff, so that was some, I guess it was relativity. Don't remember exactly. You know, I don't remember how far back I have to go. It's been a while since I did make a YouTube video, I think. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, there just isn't any useful conversation or debate to be had, unfortunately. There's no audience interested in that. So, yeah, so the other video, I should have it somewhere here where I can find it. I believe this is it. Oh, no, that's No, that's not the right video. Commercials everywhere. This one's it. Okay. So this is the subject is these. I don't even understand where this crap comes from. So people believe that they can defeat relativity or exchange it for some kind of crap about the speed of light being variable. So that Unsucker, or whatever his name is, guy, what's it called? I can't remember. Anyway, he's making this argument, and Einstein played with it also. I mean, yeah, it's it works in the sense that you can use variable speeds to change the effects, but there's just absolutely no evidence of it. There's no evidence that you can vary the speed of forces, that you can change how fast they move. I mean, there's just no evidence that that's possible. So I don't even know why it has anything to do with anything. Quick pre-presentation comments on global warming and climate change. Why? Why'd you do that? Plus more scientific info. Yeah, I don't think so. But why put a notice up too? I mean, it's just so funny. Unless the notice would be something like, please don't take anything I'm going to say here because I'm just going to make a stupid political statement. And it's going to be stupid and uninformed and completely quote miney and just so weak. So we'll just play a little. So it's really bad audio too.
The recent summer was the third hottest summer on record in the United States. It's just so silly.
Okay, so he has no evidence it's silly, except the evidence he's going to provide because he didn't put his air conditioner on. So where he lived, it wasn't hot. Now I can say it was hot as fuck here, okay, and it was worse than that. It was dry and hot, so it was really tough to keep anything alive. I mean, I could show you the dead tree in the other guy's backyard. So yeah, it was hot, plenty hot. A lot of days in a row, 90 or up, so, and the nighttime temperatures weren't very yielding.
Yeah.
So they're laughing at it, even though they have no counter statistics of any kind. Nothing. So he's not going to offer any statistics demonstrating that the facts aren't true, that there's alternative people taking temperature measurements and came up with some other calculation. He's just arguing that, see, they're all full of shit. I mean, it's just so stupid.
I didn't even turn on my air conditioner.
There, that's the evidence, right? So he's, I mean, to be so stupid to not realize that, yeah, some places it rains a lot, some places it doesn't rain at all. That's the way it works, okay? That the weather, they have fires in California, they don't have fires in New York. I mean, yeah, they're different. It's just so stupid.
Well, I had the temerity to mention to some people yesterday that my scientific group had been talking about this, and
right. So this, he thinks the temerity to drag up every time science makes a mistake and then use those mistakes to say, oh well, Albert Einstein. Well, I've done this one. Said the odds of making a nuclear bomb are the odds of shooting pigeons. From under an elephant, or whatever the fuck he said, in your pajamas. The fact that, okay, so he's just going to use because global cooling was a real thing, talked about by even Carl Sagan, volcanoes could shoot enough crap into the atmosphere to block the sun, and it would get damn cold, damn fast, and it would just break the cycle, okay? It would be enough to, even in a short period of time, to cool the earth enough that it might not heat up again. Then that you basically blow the fire out. The whatever you call it. What's the effect I'm trying to talk about here? The greenhouse effect. you can break the windows in the greenhouse.
Something was drawn to my attention that I hadn't noticed. It was one of the things I think you put up in 1971.
So he puts so he's talking about something that this other propagandist clearly put up, and so he's talking about a piece of propaganda that came from the other propagandist, and he's talking to the other propagandist about his own propaganda as if it's a new piece of propaganda. Hilarious.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a big conference in Brown University in Rhode Island, one of the live Ivy League universities, and they wrote to presumably President Nixon. It said, "Dear Mr. President, we've just..."
So they had a conference at Brown University, and because they wrote a letter being concerned about the fact that you could actually undo, do the opposite to the greenhouse effect works because the windows are still transparent, right? But if you make the glass really opaque, then you don't make a greenhouse anymore, you're making a brown house. All right, so the fact is we could produce enough particulate crap where we actually start degrading the capacity of the light to ever get to the surface where it needs to get, okay, if it's going to do its thing, bounce back and forth and stay in the atmosphere. That's the whole idea, is to trap the energy so it stays on the surface and bounces around on the surface. That's the whole idea.
This is a major conference of all the experts in climatology from...
I mean, if you don't have an atmosphere, it's, the surface temperature is hot in the sense the sun will heat the surface, but it's just that. It's just the surface. The whole idea is that you need an atmosphere that's warm if you're going to have, the surface, like you could argue that you could freeze the surface of the ocean. That's probably not a good example. But it's not going to change anything for the crap living underneath there.
The United States and all over the world, and the consensus is that we're in a very...
So it's at Brown University, it's a conference, and it's all over the world and all this. So he's making a big deal like this was the most... he doesn't even talk about who signed it or, whose name to put on it. No. So it's just a piece of crap. It's just this is just what propaganda looks like.
Difficult situation, hence we're writing to you now. We believe that because of the extreme pollution on the Earth, the sun's energy is not getting through. And
okay, I'm sure they didn't say that. Okay, so I'm sure they didn't say that. They said if it continues, it won't get through. I'm sure they were quite aware of the fact that we weren't in an ice age. Okay, and so. Yeah, it's just disgusting crap. Anyway, I had some respect for this character before this crap, but man, this just smells so, like, you gotta be so fucking stupid. What's your fucking agenda? Again, I mean, it's so simple what's gone on geologically and biologically. There's no denying, where did the oil and the coal come from? It's dead biological matter. So clearly it was in the environment before. That carbon was in the environment. And it wasn't laying there like soot or something. It was in the environment. It was active in the atmosphere. Okay, it was in the cycle. Okay, it was in the cycle. And then it got taken out of the cycle a little bit at a time. And it got colder and colder. And it got rougher and rougher for biodiversity and all that shit. Evolution was much more active in the past than it is now for this very reason, because there's less energy available, because there's, the planet's colder. It's just a fact. And, to deny it and to say we didn't do anything when we took millions of years of stored carbon and released it all at once, in a very short period of time. That doesn't change anything. I mean, it's stupid. It's silly. And you're saying, why are people being this silly? So they clearly do have an agenda, I have to, these other people that they're in this group sometimes you can see their agenda because they have a little cross on the wall or some other kind of little bullshit to give it away that they're, creation scientists. Because they don't want to out themselves. But that's what this is. Let's see if the other nut has any of his little Jesus crap in the background. Let's see. Oops. Where is the other nut? Come on. There he is. No, you can't quite see any. There's maybe over there's one. Like there's somewhere. These might be little pictures of Jesus over here or something. Anyway, Jesus says capitalism is good. I mean, apparently they're those kind of Christians. And there can't be anything wrong with us just spewing all the crap we can any crap we can make into the environment because God will fix it. So, yeah, whatever. I don't know. You can't even understand why Christians would be, tend to be, but I guess that they just want to deny all science. So that just shows that it's not particular theories they're against. They're just against everything science does because science says we evolved and that we weren't created by a god. And so the only way to get rid of that is to get rid of relativity and all the other things science believes in. I clearly would argue that you can't taint the science of evolution. It's beyond taintability. The facts are so abundant and available. And I'd say that almost that's, like I said, the climate science stuff is almost as simple as evolution. I mean, you don't have to understand much to understand it's a good theory. It's a good theory that we've changed the environment by releasing tons and tons. I don't even know, how do you even measure it? I mean, trillions of tons of carbon. But that's what we've done. It's a fact. We took an element that was really inactive in our environment and we've put it back in the active part. I mean, how is that a deniable fact? I mean, we've dug up the graveyard and, thrown the pieces back into the environment. It's just too obvious. All right, anyway, that's probably enough of a video. So a real nothing video, sorry about that part. Really just about how to, get somewhere more productive in terms of the making of these videos. Because now it really is minutia. I mean, the basic argument, 2 + 2 + 2 physics, I have done enough videos on that I should have been able to get people to understand there are mechanical models that make more sense. And I suppose one of these, So if you go to the website, there's a link to the website 2.0, and if you click on that, you'll end up at this website. And there's 5 videos here, that have these are basically the kinetic energy arguments, the argument for gravity, the argument about charge, and then electricity and magnetism. And that's really the story. And I'll improve on those videos, but that's the gist of it. And the rest, again, is just dealing with the little minutia kind of arguments that people bring up. And I don't know how interesting that is. So I don't know how much point there is to it, but we'll see. I'm really not going to get anywhere until we really get to argue with real physics. So the people holding the conventional model, they need to account for what they believe. They need to answer the questions. Why in 300 years don't we have any physical evidence of 1/2 mv²? None. They've never shown it taking 4 times more gas to go twice as fast. None. Why in 100 years haven't they repeated the Eddington experiment from space with 400 times better resolution? You don't need even a telescope, and you don't need an eclipse. I mean, the experiment's 400 times easier to do. Okay, 400 times, and they've never done it from space. From space, you can use Jupiter. because even though Jupiter's got, it's more like 10 times less gravity on its surface. I mean, if you compare the gravity of the sun outside of the sun's corona, it's pretty weak. And the gravity on Jupiter would be stronger than the gravity a radius away from the sun. I mean, just sort of a fact. I mean, the fact is, on the surface of the sun, the gravity is only 80 times. 80 times. No, I think it's only 10 times stronger than the gravity on Earth. I think it's 80 and ours is 1. I think if you use our gravity as a 1, the sun is 80 times. Yeah. So it's not as big a number as you would think, right? I mean, the thing's a million times bigger. But it's because it's a lot lighter, the stuff it's made out of. So I'm just saying that the sun's not all that in terms of a gravity source when you consider how, if you have to get outside of the sun's atmosphere, the gravity's pretty meek. So Jupiter would probably have more gravity on the surface of its atmosphere than the sun has on the surface of its atmosphere, because you have to go so much further away. But none of these questions will be answered by any of those holding the conventional religion. The Christians will not answer these criticisms of their theory. Anyway. So what else did I want to do? There was something else I was heading for, and I ended up here for whatever reason. No, that's probably enough. I'll pause and I'll think for a minute if there's anything else I have to say. So I'm guessing not. Yeah, so that's it. It's just about, like I said, I have to engage somehow. I have to get this conversation to be a conversation, an argument between defending alternative theories, relativity, wave theory, and kinetic energy, super energy theory, against the alternative of, yes, it's all particles, there is absolute space and time, there's only 3 dimensions, okay, and no, there's just momentum. That's all that's working in the universe. It's all that's moving in the universe is momentum. It's just being exchanged between objects. And that's it. There's nothing else happening here. Those arguments, there needs to be a place to watch those arguments play out and be test each other. And got to find somebody brave enough to do that on the opposing side, because I can't find anybody who will engage on those subjects. So, until then, we're stuck in this not great place where all I have to do is improve the stuff I've already done. And, again, I'm not looking for a popular audience, so improvements, aren't going to be in a form I think an intelligent person could care about. I mean, catchier icons, music in the background. That's not stuff that's going to appeal to somebody with a brain. So anyway, until the next time, such and so forth and whatnot. We'll just endeavor to persevere and see what happens, I guess. Damn it. I mean, I've tried paying them, but you can't even pay them for the conversation. So anyway, this has been DraftPhysics.com, DebatePhysics.com also, and that's the website I'd really like to develop, but can't find a debater, unfortunately.